Hey good people, thanks as always for stopping by. So look, today I just had to comment on the news that broke yesterday all over the internet regarding Pope Francis and his most recent remarks which express support for same-sex civil unions. There's so much I want to say regarding this topic. If you're familiar with my content, you know that even though I'm generally focused on the law of attraction, I've always been deeply interested in religious and political issues. I think it stems from my passion for philosophy, which unites the two subjects. Anyways, you're going to love this. Let's get right into it. Okay, welcome back, folks. To begin with, I think it's important to mark out my official position on a few points so there's no confusion, first and foremost with YouTube administrators, being that I don't want to compromise my status as a partner who's monetized on their platform, and then to my followers who are on all sides of the religio-political cultural divide I'm weighing in on. With that said, first and foremost, I am and always have considered myself to be a progressive liberal person. For those of you who know me, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, so I can see where religious fundamentalism is extremely dangerous. I also see where deeply held religious convictions weigh in on the matter as well. Even as a Jehovah's Witness, however, I, like Pope Francis, have always tipped towards a softer, more democratic approach to social issues. And so just to be on record with the YouTube gods, even though I'll be presenting conservative arguments against same-sex unions, I do not share them, nor do I endorse them. I believe that the activism on the part of historically marginalized groups like the LGBTQ is necessary and objectively a better path forward than the posture that has been taken against them in the past. The second thing I want to make clear is that I'm not a religious person. I do not agree with many, perhaps most, of Catholic teachings. I'm an atheist in the sense that I don't believe in a supernatural deity. Now, something that's important to understand about this story is that it does not mark an official de jure reform in church doctrine or policy. The Roman Catholic Church still holds that while gay people are not personally condemned for their nature, the behavior is condemned as objectively disordered both in Scripture and in ethics. That's their position. And these most recent comments by the Pope has sent shockwaves throughout the Church. Here's what Bishop Thomas Tobin of Providence, Rhode Island said in response. The Pope's statement clearly contradicts what has been the long-standing teaching of the Church about same-sex unions, adding that the comment needs to be clarified. The New York Times also reported that some of the Pope's most consistent critics inside the Catholic hierarchy agreed that the Pope seemed to support civil unions, and they were vexed by it, quoting Bishop Tobin again of saying, "The Church cannot support the acceptance of objectively immoral relationships," end quote. Now, of course, quite predictably, allies of either the LGBTQ community and the Pope, or both, have welcomed these most recent statements. One executive director of the New Ways Ministry, which is an organization of LGBT Catholics, stated this: "A pope sets the tone for the church, and what he is doing is signaling to bishops and church leaders that a welcome for gay and lesbian couples has to go forward." A Jesuit priest, Reverend James Martin, endorsed Pope Francis' remarks with the following: "This is a major step forward in the church's relationship with LGBTQ people. It's going to be harder for bishops to say that same-sex civil unions are a threat against marriage. This is unmistakable support," end quote. So that's the long and the short of it. Now, here's why I find this story so earth-shattering. I've always been intrigued by social dynamics and how even those who accept some kind of ultimate and empirical truth, they cannot seem to escape politics. You see, it's very easy, and I think tawdry, cynical, to point at a religious group, in this case the Catholics, and say something to the effect that, well, that's Catholics for you, or isn't that a sign of its untruth, that there can be such vast and seemingly unresolvable issues even within an organization that claims to be in an ultimately vicarious relationship with an endorsement from the Most High? Now, I personally share a lack of belief in the Church bearing such status. But this is not just endemic to Catholic social dynamics. It exists everywhere, in all institutions, polities, and communities. Look, even your most rigorous intellectuals can be beholden to certain ideas that are patently unscientific or unrealistic. The march of moral and scientific progress continues to reveal this limitation in humanity. I may be holding all kinds of views which will be disproved within 100 years. Religious affiliation, any identitarian affiliation, is more complex than that. I remember being a Jehovah's Witness for decades and constantly being vexed with how we shared a similar view towards our status with the divine. We believe that we are in a one organization that God backs on this planet, no other. The thing that the Jehovah's Witnesses always prided themselves in was how the doctrine was consistent among its followers. This was true on big things such as their position toward blood transfusions, say, or our views towards the Trinity, our position regarding Christ dying on a stake as opposed to the cross, certain prophecies, and even this issue of same-sex unions. But when it came to the posture that should be taken toward those who were excommunicated, for example, no, this was not consistent. Depending on the type of person you were, you would find the more law and order type references in Watchtower publications to support shunning. If you were more of a softie, you would call from the deep recesses on the Watchtower library to support a more inclusive position. It constantly vexed me. How can a group of people be so much in agreement on some things, but completely at odds about other issues that were in the bag, so to speak? How could excommunication exist and there be such different postures towards those individuals who are exiled from the group? When you look into the literature or even get straight back to what the Bible says, it all seemed so clear until someone found some other reference in the Bible, or several, which seemed completely inconsistent. I speak about my past with the witnesses, but it's not exclusive to them and Catholics. Take the Supreme Court in the United States. Your job as a Supreme Court justice is absolutely clear. You must uphold the Constitution. That's your job. Yet, look at the divide between a justice like Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Scalia was a conservative, but I'd say actually more of a constitutional originalist. He was more progressive than people gave him credit. Ginsburg, on the other hand, openly identifies as a liberal and viewed the Constitution, like most on the bench did, as a living document, something whose principles kept up with evolving social mores. There was a similar view toward the Bible among the witnesses, too. At times, the organization would take some inflexible, literalist position on something, but then on others claim, well, the Bible is a living document. It changes with the needs of the time. How unbelievably arbitrary. I think as a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, if you actually listen to his views on abortion, homosexuality, or any other thing, you would be shocked and appalled. This man was not without nuance. The reason why Republicans loved him, though, is because he seemed to fly their flag. But his reasons were far more abstracted and purist. Scalia chafed at this idea of the Constitution changing with the times. That was his main issue. He felt that while you couldn't be absolutely literal with it, you could arrive at one true meaning the framers of the Constitution had in their minds through the Federalist Papers and other historical documents. He was an originalist and a textualist. I'm not expressing support for such a view. I think he deserves a lot of credit for having such fortitude and strength in some of his most notable dissenting opinions. But no, I think it's dangerous to commit yourself to a document that was drafted centuries ago on a completely different cultural context and say, this is how our country should think and act on matters. Interestingly, Scalia thought that the one thing that should have been amended in the Constitution is the procedures involved in making an amendment to it, because he agreed that it was far too difficult to pass an amendment and that this bolstered the motivation of progressive judges to take liberties with the Constitution. This seems to me completely comical because he knew that progress was inevitable. It's kind of like making a distinction without a difference, isn't it? Scalia was to be commended at least for trying to be as legitimate and democratic about things as possible. Now, all of this stuff about the courts is just to show how prevalent the issue is. It's the exact same problem that is being had among the Catholics right now. We cannot help but interpret our explicit beliefs through our a priori presuppositions, which are deeply veiled and out of sight to most people. I personally like the direction Pope Francis has taken on this. Now, I know the hardliners will be all, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Something I'm prepared to give hardliners and conservatives some credit for, though, is there is a deeply corrosive and dangerous element to social progress, and that is moral relativism. If all of your beliefs are easily subject to revision and compromise, this causes a lot of instability within society, and we can't function as a society in such drastic shifts of the pendulum. If you're interested in this subject, I'd highly recommend you watch that movie on Netflix starring Anthony Hopkins called The Two Popes. It followed the history between the more conservative Ratzinger and this Pope Francis. And it illustrates to me the predicament we all find ourselves with those on the other side of the aisle, so to speak. Now, I can't tell you how common and pervasive this social dynamic is. I knew so many hard law and order conservative type elders among the Jehovah's Witnesses. My grandfather was one of them. He had extremely inflexible views towards certain issues. Actually, the same-sex union issue was one of them. Then there were more liberal and progressive elders who were very kind and current. The conservatives, although they never referred to themselves as conservatives in the society because, they're all politically neutral according to them, would accuse the softer ones of mistaken kindness, basically calling them sellouts and enablers. And these two types of dispositions were constantly at odds with one another, despite their unity within, the broader organizational context. Now, just in closing, being that I tune into Bishop Robert Barron, who has a vast online presence here on YouTube, I really hope he speaks on the comments made by Pope Francis and addresses this. Again, I'm no Catholic, but I do respect Bishop Barron a lot as a thinker and one who is generally quite compassionate and progressive, at least in his temperament. This is a long shot, I realize, but Bishop Barron, if you're watching, this is a video request. What do you make of all this? Do you think that a slip in this direction will obscure the face of Catholicism, perhaps Christianity beyond recognition? I think it would be a huge lost opportunity if you just let this issue hang without commenting. As always, I enjoy hearing your thoughts. Let's make this video trend, guys, so that Bishop Barron eventually finds it. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you believe this gesture by Pope Francis signals the dawn of a new posture between the Catholic Church toward LGBTQ community? Tell me below. Oh, and by the way, dissenting opinions are welcome. They're encouraged, actually. But hate speech directed at either Catholics or LGBTQ people will not be tolerated. I'm serious about this, guys. Typically, I'm absolutely neutral about what people say down there and just leave all the censorship up to YouTube. In this case, though, being that I'm initiating the conversation and it is decidedly political, I think it's irresponsible to be ambivalent about what people say in the comments. Sensible and respectful conversation is possible, even on charged topics like this. But there is a line I'm imposing on this one. As always, thanks for watching. I look forward to chatting with you below, and we'll see you again in the next one, okay? Take care. Hey guys, did you like this video? You know what to do. And if something I mentioned today resonated with you, click one of them cards on this screen. I have lots of related content sure to interest you. Thanks as always for your views, and we'll see you next time.